It's no secret that oil prices continue to climb, with crude oil flirting with and in some cases exceeding the $100 per barrel mark. Now, we've said it before here on the program that in normal times, economics dictate that high prices would be pulling in supply as oil companies rush to meet demand. And this isn't happening for a variety of reasons. And guess what, people? None of them are political. During this segment, we dig a bit deeper to give you the real reasons why. But let me get to the essence. I'm looking at a report from oilprice.com, their intelligence report. This intelligence report gives me a summary of what contracts are for crude oil delivery in April and May of this year, and they're well north of $100 a barrel. It also gives me, as of March 4th, the U.S. rig count by oil field in the United States. Now, the reason why that's important is these rigs are what pull the oil out of the ground. And when oil producers, when the wildcatters, when the exploration companies are putting rigs to work, it means they're increasing the number of rigs to increase the amount of oil pulled from a proven field. And I'm going to count here because they reported a variety of ones, and the chain from week to week, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, at least 12 different oil fields in the United States, which also include shale oil fields. And change? Basically nothing, with the exception of the Haynesville field and the Permian Basin, which is the big basin everybody knows about. Permian added 1 rig, Haynesville 2. Some others reduced their count by 1, but there is no major activity in the increase of oil rigs in the oil fields to bring oil to the market. That's where I'm at. And the reason why that is simple. Oil exploration, the oil business is boom and bust in the best of times. There's years like now where demand is high, prices are high. Typically, these oil companies go to the banks, go to the investors, borrow a lot of money, put these rigs out in the field and start bringing oil in. The effect of everybody going to market is economics 101, which is when the cost of a commodity gets high enough, it pulls in supply. As it pulls in supply, it drops the price as supplies catch up with demand. This didn't happen because Wall Street decided, the investors in these companies, these publicly held companies, decided that they wanted their money. And in order to get their money, it meant telling these companies, no, you cannot increase your capital expenditure budget in order to increase your production to meet this demand. That is it. Bottom line. As always, it's all about the money. This is a Wall Street issue. This also shows the imperfections in our whole crude oil, gasoline, industrial complex. Stated, we got plenty of oil in the middle part of the United States of America. Right now, we are the number 1 producer of oil in the world, in case you didn't know it, with Saudi Arabia being number 2 and Russia being number 3. What's the problem? Severalfold. Number 1, there are not enough pipelines to go east, which means eastern states import oil. Not because we don't have it, it's because we can't get West Texas Intermediate to the coast. That's the problem. And even when we do, because there's a few pipelines, nobody wants a refinery in their backyard. So there are precious few refineries on the East Coast to refine this stuff into petroleum products that people can use, like heating oil and natural gas and fuel. Because of that problem, the United States prior to the pandemic was exporting oil and natural gas from the ports down in Louisiana and Port Arthur, and down that way, we were importing the stuff on the East Coast. And by the way, Canada has the same problem. Their Atlantic provinces, there are no pipelines there, so they import oil. These are the problems, folks. Before we start throwing bricks at the government, let's look in the mirror for a minute. Nobody wants a pipeline in their backyard. Nobody wants a refinery in their backyard. This is the price we pay for that. We are physically and chemically and independent right now because of the technology in the oil fields in the last 20 years. But a lot of that's controversial, like fracking, and it's a problem. But let's put that aside for a minute. Let's put all of that aside for a minute and get to the real elephant in the room. On this program, Chase and I have talked about this, about the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and the fact that he was in favor, and I'm putting words in his mouth, and he's looking dead at me, that it should be government subsidies. And I kind of balked. I'm like, yeah. The market is doing this right now for us. They're making the case to go electric in a way that is free market ruled. If you don't want to pay the higher price for gasoline, guess what? In the next 6 months to 12 months, you will have a plethora of choices, cars, vans, pickup trucks that are pure electrics. You don't have to deal with this. Congress can give and should subsidies for folk who are not able to upgrade. That should happen. But also remember this, because there are fewer parts in an EV, while prices were high, and that's for any new technology, people, this is not new, prices for all of these vehicles are going to drop dramatically. If you listened to our show last week, we talked about that and why.
And hopefully the war ends soon, because that's the biggest issue here. And a lot of commodities are going to have issues, like wheat is another one. So
it is, but we only import 3% of our oil from Russia. 3%.
Cyber risk requires a zero trust approach. That's next. This is Roadworthy Drive.